guess we can start. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Chamber, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the conference on ESG Conference and World of Investment Banking Loans. Very delighted to address you today in this important and timely conference. Is the of the establishment of began celebrating manifest events, cooperation and local stakeholders. Continuing the months, this in bar, all invited, please follow this site this year. TurkCham was established in June this year, and it offers an innovative business model and increased visibility since this is the first part of the that we have under the helm of TurkCham. So not only to the Turkish people, but also third countries. So it gives the opportunity for Turkish and third country and even countries to cooperate. Firstly, here in Montenegro and in any other else in the world, second or first. Well, our main aim in TurkCham is to improve business and investment climate. One of our goals is community, which will deal with improved Europe and attempt to best promote investment climate. For us, we is a geographic logistics center of attraction on the Adriatic. We believe it is the perfect location for infrastructure and particularly in tourism. We have the perfect political relations with Turkey and Montenegro. We believe social and emotional reasons why such this excellent political relations to be I need to say relations are far beyond this. Relations. One of the aim of the chamber is also to increase the trade between our countries. The chamber has now active activities, which one of them is to establish an organized industrial zone in Montenegro. First, we want to want the companies, but we believe it will also not only the Montenegro of course, there is a big demand and attraction towards two countries. The largest we have also particularly so much bureaucracy. How we your level of we need legal bureaucracy and level of qualified workforce. First, link to the areas should improve. So I don't want to so long. We ask every Turkish here to the opportunities. we ask them to build their know-how before, and that we ask first with the business they are doing in Turkey, manage all the businesses if needed. So taking this approach back for the future, and of course, for their unwavering efforts in organization of this conference. Thank you for
Good afternoon, everyone. President of TurkCham and English guests. My name is Dundar Sahin, and thank you for being with me here this afternoon. I'll try to be clear as possible. Some answers into this a bit boring stuff, but thank you for being here. And we would love to share the details of ESG. So before we start, maybe we can start talking about who we are and how we are doing. My name is Dundar Sahin. Can everyone?
we doing.
Do I need microphone for technical reasons? Yeah, we need a microphone. Okay. So what we are doing is we are a consulting company. We set up our company in 2018 into Istanbul. And thanks to this environment, we're doing our consultancy from Montenegro to Podgorica, Model, and Organised. We are specialized in ESG and EBR in IFC. EBR refers to European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and IFC stands for International Agency, a World Group organization. So we are working with them on a consultancy capacity or in an auditing capacity. I know that auditing is not a content to place, but we need it to be able to maintain the quality of the business. And what we are doing in expertise, we have supply chain experience, labor rights, business and operations continuity, and risk analysis. We are having staff in industrial engineers, system engineers, PBMs, and administration experts. And we are partnering with EBR, Walmart, SKI Social certification. And also DuPont and Primark. We are also working with Norway Export Agency and Urban Development Bank. And for other companies, we work with Enerjisa, or this joint energy company in Turkey, especially for distribution and also production, and also tractor, and Renaissance and Yemex and Vodafone. So now I position myself here, so you can hear me comfortably. We are operating in multiple countries, not only in Turkey. Yeah. So we have projects in Cambodia, we have projects in Far East Asia, and including some projects in Europe, and that includes also United States of America. And we are trying to be because if you install international consultants in a local country, you need to also adapt the local culture. So that's where our work is coming from. We try to blend in the local context with an international partner. So we're going to talk about ESG, but first I would like to ask you questions. Are there any bankers in this room? Great, we have a banker. Are there any consultants in this room? Consultants, Gina, I know you. Yeah, I know you. Okay. Yeah, Great. So let's ask this question, and if you have an idea, please share with us. So what is an ESG? In your own words, you don't have to use, book description. What does it sound to you when I talk about ESG? Okay, it's environmental, it's social, and it's government. But what do we mean about ESG? 40 years ago, when you would like to conduct a business globally, all you have to do is produce the product in a quality manner and lower the cost. You can sell your products low cost, high quality. That was it. That was 40 years. Now the world is a different place. You need to produce your product low cost, high quality, environmentally friendly. You cannot pollute the environment, and you cannot go to the world and say that, hey, I have the best price. And what about your quality measures? How do you pollute the environment? Now, it is not enough. Environment, quality, cost, occupational safety. How many people get hurt when you're making a project? Like, I'm going to work with injury. You need to be important because people are watching. Now we have social media. Everybody is looking for this. International activist NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Thank God that they exist because they appreciate us. International unions, international human rights activist groups, international environmental protection agencies. So we have an accountability issue at the moment. It's not about only I got the best product, best price. It doesn't mean anything in the world. See, even countries are changing strategies. They are adopting new laws. Look at German new law on supply chain. Look at UK new act on supply chain. European Union is making this move. United States is moving this way. And world already moved here. So stop thinking about should I include more ESG in my practices? You shouldn't have done that because it is already too late. The world is there. So environment means environmental criteria considered and social criteria is examining how we manage relationships with the employees. Is there a workplace community in my workplace? Now people are asking these questions. Oh, we have a great policy. We have great procedures. It is not enough. Do we have some worker engagement, employee engagement? What about my gender balance in my workplace? These are becoming an important questions for international companies. Again, 40 years ago, these issues were not an issue for international development banks. All they were looking for you is, you have a project, you need investment, okay, here is your 500 million euro, you can start, and you can repay me into this installment plans. In today's world, they're saying that, here's your money, you have a good, you have a good financial standards, you have a good accountancy system, but what about, do we have worker rights in your workplace? Do you have environmental staff? Do you have technical health and safety people on board to deal with these issues? This is very important. And the most important part is stakeholder engagement. Have any idea what stakeholder engagement is? Oh, that's some motivating thinking. In the meantime, do you have any problem with my accent or English? Can you able to understand? Please tell me to slow down or louder. I can do what I can. Excellent. So, stakeholder engagement is, there are two stakeholder engagements. One is internal, that means in my company, in my organization, I need to include some representatives. They are not unions, but they are bringing the sound of the workforce to the management. Hey, you know what? It's time maybe for us to change our cafeteria because majority of the workers are not happy with the meals. So how can you learn it? By making surveys and stakeholder engagement in your workplace. External stakeholder engagement with the community, with the public, with the villages. Imagine the highway project in Montenegro, right? It's a huge project, big project. But when the project is establishing, I'm sure that the company start consulting with the villages and talking to villages and surroundings because we are disturbing them. It's not like old days anymore. They have animals there. Animals need to cross the street. They have fields there. They have production there. So we need to get them involved and listen to their problems. We call it the grievance mechanism and stakeholder engagement. These are the key issues. So who are these development banks? Actually, there are many. I'm just concentrating on two big major players. IFC, is a World Bank Group, and EBRD, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. IFC, founded in 1956, is a World Bank Group member, is the largest global development institution focused exclusively on the private sector. And their investments total in Montenegro until this day is $101.3 million US dollars for 25 projects. And the second player is the EBRD. It was founded in 1991 after the Cold War era. They were supposed to support the private institutions and private companies, and they invest more than 700 million euros for 76 projects in Montenegro. So they are huge. So if you're looking for a project, and if your project is big and has some impact on environment and social on people, and if that project is cost more than 5 million euros, these are your right key players. Because if you're looking for something like less money, banks may guide you to go to the local bank. They can take care about you. But if you're talking about multi-million or multi-hundred million euro project, then you are on the right place with these players. As I explained, 40 years ago, these big players were not really asking these questions. But now, international NGOs, especially the activist NGOs, are starting to attack them and say that, look, you are giving my taxpayers' money to a company who are using workers as slaves, or they are dying. Look at the death rate of this project. So you have to report it. That is very important. Then the banks change their systems, and first they set up policies. Then policies become, I will explain later, performance standards or performance requirements, and ask you some specific 1 and 0 style questions. Do you have it? Yes or no? Or if you don't have it, can you develop it? So you need to give a commitment to these banks that you are going to be in their reliance and in their standards. So how do they operate? They operate, that's the bank's mandates. That means the bank's top management. And most of these mandates are strategic capital framework for next 5 years. So they have a strategy for every 5 years. And this strategy is not stable, it is changing. It is changing according to world trend, what's happening in the world. Right now, you start to hear a lot of things about Me Too movement. Maybe you heard about it, Me Too. It is a huge issue, especially in the United States and including in Europe right now. And the big, how can I say, popular agenda at the moment is GBVH, that gender-based violence and sexual harassment. So sexual harassment doesn't have to be physical, it can have many forms. And right now, it is the top topic in the global investment arena. And those things are in the policies of these banks. Why? Because of mandate, because of 5-year strategic plan. And then country strategies. That means the bank has a global strategy, but that global strategy may be a little bit different in a specific country. For example, they can say that for Montenegro, our strategic partnership, our strategy is this and that. I will explain to you later. And then, even from the country, it can be a sector specific. That means, for example, our strategy for renewable energies. IFC can say that our strategy for agriculture, agribusiness, our strategy for, especially today's world, development projects, such as big health projects that we had in Turkiye, about the city hospitals projects. So what we have to understand here is bank global strategy, country-specific strategies, and finally sector-specific strategies can be in line together or can be a little bit different. So development bank's Montenegro strategy, especially for 2021 to 2023, EBRD's key priority in Montenegro is to help diversify the country's economy, to reduce the reliance on seasonal tourism and to improve the business environment. Montenegro is a great country for tourism. We all know that Montenegro is a beautiful country. I am coming and going to Podgorica since 2018, and I'm one of your fans. We can say that yet, but TurkCham Montenegro couldn't improve too much. All I know is domaći kafu SGČ, ja sam Dragan, ja sam Solašina. That's all I know, for starters. But I would like to improve that. But they're right, they're saying that seasonal investments, you have a great summer, but what is happening in December in Kotor? What is happening in January in Budva? So we have to diversify the investment opportunities. And yet, there are lots of opportunities for Montenegro to find the right spots for production. Tourism is a great income, but being a productive country is a marvelous thing. So we need to focus on more about productions and looking for partnerships with the productions that are the strategies of the banks. And the second thing, support the Montenegro green economic transition. Montenegro is a great country for sun. Yes, August in Podgorica can be tricky, 45 degrees, but it is also an advantage for renewable energy investments. Montenegro is also a great country for wind. Wind and solar can be a game changer for the entire region because Montenegro is connected to its neighbors. So it's exporting electricity, maybe it's time to import some electricity with the production and investment into renewable energies. But yes, the country needs some legislative changes because there are still some blank spots for investors especially in solar panel, like maybe buying a field and just installing panels there. Should we talk in parliament or should we talk with the decision makers in the government level? And the last one is postal connectivity and integration. And railways and the highways. The one highways already started and I think it's still developing. Railways are the second one because Port of Montenegro is a big block for Montenegro. So the Port of Bar. As long as it's connected to Mediterranean Sea, it can connect the depths of Serbia, Kosovo, and the further countries strategically to the north and also to the west. And I don't know the actual status of the project yet, but there was a concept note starting from 2018. It's the continuity of the TAP project. TAP is continuity of TANAP. TANAP is also our customer. Trans-Anatolian Natural Gas Line project, coming all the Azeri gas to Anatolia, and from Turkiye to Greece, and Greece to Albania, and Albania to Adriatic Sea to Italy. It's already completed, the gas is there, but now using Dubrovnik or using Albania as a hub to distribute that gas into entire Balkans. It's a big project, and there are lots of business opportunities for Montenegrins and for the surrounding countries, because, you know, construction means lots of employees. Construction means pipelines. Construction means asphalt. Construction means concrete. Construction means a lot of different sectors working together. So right now, try to visionize about these big major projects for the future. Development banks, investment priorities. Actually, I force myself to find these priorities. If you have a good business plan, and if you are a sustainable company, and if you are willing to change, there's no priority for banks. At the end of the day, you are a product for a bank because they want to sell it. They want to sell it to you because they can only earn money when they can be able to sell it to you. So what they can do is they sometimes do direct financing. That means as a company, you are going to a bank directly and talk about your project with the feasibility report and say that this is my project, this is my financial structure, and this is my strategic structure, and this is the output. And this is the impact to environment, this is the impact to my workforce, and this is the impact to the community. As long as these impacts are done and you have the good financial stability, the bank most probably approve your credit to other than loan. Or there are other options like sometimes EBRD and ISD got a chunk of money and gave it to the local development institutions or the banks. Like, for example, EBRD, I think, provided 2 million euros just after the pandemics to Altus Monli Group, am I right? Is that right? Altus? After Altus Group. And they said, take this 2 million euro, but prioritize the women entrepreneurs. If there's a women entrepreneur, just divide this money and give this as a startup project or support them. So sometimes banks have this kind of strategical targets. they can just use local banks for them. Or they can use refinance. They can sell the loan to a local bank, and local bank sell that loan to you by putting their commission into the financial price, and you just pay just extra money and got the money. Who needs this? Anyone who is willing to work globally and they need extra investment, but they don't have the cash. That's the only reason that they can work with the development banks. So what are their priorities? Human rights, including labor rights. Don't worry, I'm going to open the subject in all the details. It is a huge subject, and one of the biggest issues and also companies are struggling with, because it is respecting the local law, but it's also saying that, I'm sorry, you have the local law, but you need to obey the ILO requirements, International Labour Organization requirements, plus I have some specific requirements for this specific thing. So it is hard to comply. It's not easy, I must say. The second thing is the green economy. Anything you're doing environmental friendly and circular economy, especially green economy, and that is very, very important, especially with the renewables. Renewable energy, we already talked about it. Environmental protection, including biodiversity. For example, I'm working with an energy distribution company. That energy distribution company doing everything is not enough. What they are doing is they are taking care about their power lines, because they need to answer a question to a consultant, how you are protecting the birds. Because birds, when they hit them, they either explode, burn, or get hurt, or lose their lives. And you know the migration seasons. There are some endemic birds crossing through Turkiye, crossing through Skadar Lake here. So that distribution company is now thinking how we can just disattract birds to my power lines. So they are using some countermeasures, such as some fake sounds, fake noises, trying to move the birds away from the danger zone. Biodiversity is very important. For example, if you ever go to the highway next to the new airport in Istanbul, you can see the biological bridge. What's a biological bridge? It's a bridge on the highway. It's not used by humans or by cars. It's used by animals. It's providing animal crossing from one side to the other side. Because highways are great for us, but highways are a nightmare for animals, because you are just putting a non-transferable line between right-hand side and the left-hand side. So now projects are evolving. See, we were just talking about building a road 40 years ago. Now we are thinking something else beyond it. And the world is already there. If you're looking for investments, especially for your projects from the investment banks, these are the questions that you need to answer. Or you need to have some preparations. This is the level. Public-private partnerships. It is very popular. It is very effective. You have the public interest that the government says, okay, I want to build a hospital, but I don't want to just take care about the construction and the cost. And what I do is I'll just find someone to build it, and then that person will even maybe operate it for some years, and then able to leave it back to the public sources. So private and public partnerships are very popular models globally. Public interest and welfare projects, including health, and it is a high priority project, especially Turkey. Turkey built 21 city hospitals. They are huge. They are capable of multi-story buildings and multi-structured areas. So city hospitals are a great example of public welfare. How are we going? Do you have any problems, any questions? Silence is a good thing, I assume. Okay. So, development banks' mandates and development banks' requirements. There are 10 commandments, ladies and gentlemen. The first one is assessment and management of environmental and social risks and impacts. So these requirements are in line with policies and also procedures and performance standards. As you can see on the right-hand side, it says performance standards and abbreviated as PS. It is what how IFC is using it. And on the right and left-hand side, you can see PR, which is performance requirements. That is how EBRD call them. They're not equal, but they're similar. So the first thing, when you go to a bank, apply for money, the bank's consultant is going to look at your PS1 or PL1, which is like the maturity of your management system. Are you a professional company? Are you managed by professionals? Or you are still a family company? It doesn't matter. You can be a family company. All your family can be on the board. It doesn't matter. It's not important. But are you managing them professionally? Are there policies that the top management has a commitment to? Right? Because they're going to ask you this question. Okay, well, we have a no-child labor policy. Great. How you can establish this no-child labor policy? What do you do not to have a child labor? Next question is going to be like this. So it is assess the majority of the management system, majority of your professionalism, and maturity of your commitment, especially top management commitment. It is assessed in PR1 and or PS1. The second one, I'm going to keep it brief here because I have a dedicated slide explaining every detail about this labor and working conditions. It is a huge issue and it has a lot of very important sub-headings directly related with this. Resource efficiency and pollution prevention and control. Briefly, environment. What are you doing? For example, you are producing something, how much water do you use to produce your product? Can you able to decrease that? How many natural resources that you are using? How many woods that you're burning? Are you burning coal? Or are you using energy efficiency in your workplace? What about your waste? Are you just dumping in one place and put it into the public garbage? Or are you disregarded your waste to plastics, to papers, to metals, or household items? How do you manage that? Those are the questions that they're asking, including resource efficiency. Health and safety and security. This includes as well the public safety, means the community safety. Like you have a project, for example. Let's assume that you are building a highway in this country and you're saying, I have a lot of trucks. So truck means what? Truck means traffic. So how you manage the community safety in the traffic? You need to have a traffic management plan to be able to talk with the bank. Do they have any speed limits on your trucks? What about dust? How do you deal with dust when these huge trucks are going from your construction site, entering a village? What do you do to reduce this? Or you are a mine in the middle of nowhere and you have to use trucks to bring the core to the refinery. How you're managing the dust on the road? What do you do for that? Or you're a cement factory. Do you have enough filters to be able to filter to the public safety? Land acquisition, restrictions, land use, and involuntary settlement. I know you're going to say to me, Dundar, come on, we are 2023, you're still talking about involuntary resettlements. Do we have it? Yes, unfortunately, yes. Especially this is a big issue in South America. Because when huge, I'm talking about giant investors came to South America, they want to just take the land, but that land is owned by some local people for centuries, and they don't want to go away. Even there was some killings of family members, trying to threaten them, and doing a lot of illegal stuff, trying to get those lands. So this is a huge issue. You should have a policy how you're going to deal with these resettlements. And believe me, the success of a resettlement is based on how many court cases you have. For example, you bought hundreds little acres of land, and now you have hundreds cases in the court. Is that a successful resettlement project? No, because you're either too greedy, you don't want to pay much money, or there's something wrong in there. So the banks are going to score your credit based on these results. We are actually looking at the court cases. Biodiversity, conservation, sustainable management of living natural resources. In some areas, there are some endemic plants. Do you know endemic plants or endemic animals? They can only live in that particular environment. And they need to understand, is there an endemic plant or endemic animal living across your project? If yes, how your project are going to affect them? Do they get hurt? What about their homes? What about their feed patterns, their reproduction patterns? you need to hire a biologist and biodiversity expert to able to get this as a different team as a project. And you're gonna be, some people are surprised and looking at me, yes, actually banks are actually looking at this. Indigenous peoples, this is very important as well. In some areas of the world, especially in India, some parts of Pakistan, and southern Bangladesh, and most places in South America, including Australia, there are indigenous people. Indigenous people are different from the majority of the living environment, and they are living like a clan. They have their own rules, they have their own rights, they have their own land, and they have their own beliefs. So our project should be aware of these differences and should be in line with them. So stakeholder engagement, remember I talked about it, we need to include them into our stakeholder engagement plan. Cultural heritage, especially these are important for all cities like Istanbul. Istanbul is having a lot of problem with this cultural heritage. Maybe problem is not the right word. It is great that we have those cultural heritages, but it's not good for projects. We have this great project, crossing of the Bosphorus via tunnel. There were two tunnels. One is a tunnel for subway and railway, and the other tunnel was for highway. Both projects postponed for 3.5 years, because when they started to dig, they found a ship from Viking area, and so the project stopped. And the project is captured by archaeologists. I mean, all the engineers were looking at their project and they couldn't touch it because it's a historical heritage. So there are some rules and regulations about this. When you find something, what you're going to do, where to report, you should have a plan, advanced planning. Financial intermediaries, these are not so common because sometimes development banks, as I explained before, they give that loan to a financial intermediary. That means it's another financial institution, and that institution is using that money to put their interest rate on the bank's interest rate to get a little profit, but also support the local economy. But banks are saying, you are a bank, I know you, but as a bank, if you're using my money, you should have this kind of mechanisms or enough person to be able to audit or assess the credits. So, I mean, it's like, for example, EBR decided to provide 5 million euros to Erste Bank. Let's assume Erste Bank should hire a professional, at least a labor and environmental expert, when companies are willing to use this credit to assess it on behalf of EBR. Information disclosure and stakeholder engagement, very important parts. Whatever you do in the project, be prepared yourself that it's going to be transferable. That means everything will be transferable. Everything will be written in the disclosure portal. Go to ebrt.org, go to ifc.org, and click the disclosure portal and look at any project in the world they provide. Like I can find all projects in Montenegro. What was the initial problems? What was the commitment of the management? They say that, okay, I accept my problems, but in 1 year I'm going to change this. In 2 years I'm going to change that. In 6 months I'm going to employ this much of personnel. So these are going to be disclosed, and also how am I conducting stakeholder engagement meetings with the community? What kind of instruments that I'm using? For example, during the pandemic in 2020, especially in May, people started to suffer at home. And even marriages are starting to suffer. Because you woke up, there was a lady next to you, or there was a guy next to you, he's your husband or your wife, but then you go to work, or whatever your preference is in your life, okay, you go to work, and then you don't see that person almost 8 hours, you kind of miss, then in the evening you come back and have a dinner together, spend some time together. That's okay, but we were doing this for 24 hours, and not for 1 day. It was like 3 months, 4 months. People stayed at home. So interestingly, globally, domestic violence started to increase between intimate partners. So it became a huge issue, not only for Turkey, for Montenegro, for globally, because it is a psychological problem. One of the distribution companies in Turkey, when they're sending their mom the bills, they started to put some little hints for a safe psychological life at home, or dissimulating the home-based violence and harassments and stuff like that, try to inform the public indirectly by just using their invoices, monthly invoices. So there are lots of instruments. Like I would like to share a great example from you with Mersin, a metropolitan municipality. Mersin is at the southern part of Turkey, next to Mediterranean Sea, and their municipality took a loan from EBRD for renewing the old buses, old city buses. And they started a great project with gender bias. They train all their bus drivers, and they say the fireflies. You know fireflies, right? They just shine at the darkness. They call it the fireflies, and they distribute this in the all bus stops. So when the lady is walking in the street and they feel threatened, they put that firefly logo into that area, and constantly the municipality workers are looking at the environment and searching for these fireflies. And when they see a firefly, they say there is a problem here for safety. What can I do? There is no street light here, so it's a dark place. So ladies don't feel comfortable when they're walking in the street. Or there is a problem here with the bus station. Maybe I need to put this bus station next to the road. It is staying very back, so the people doesn't feel safe. There are tons of instruments. I'll just leave it to your creativity. So it's not just one thing. It's not like gathering people in one place and talking about it. There are lots of instruments. If you're okay with it, and I have a lot of time. PS2 or PR2. This is the most famous subject. PS2 and PR2 is human and labor rights and working conditions. The first thing is the banks concentrate on your policies. In the meantime, thank you very much for your attention taking photos of the slides. There is a link attached to TurkCham website. You can download the entire presentation. We already put it there. So kindly visit the TurkCham social media accounts or their website. You can download the presentation. And feel free to share it with anyone, no problem. So human resources policies. The bank will ask you like, do you have a policy? If you say yes, that's a great thing. But then the bank will ask, how did you implement this policy? Like, for example, we have a no child labor policy in our workplace. We're not working with child. I'm going to talk more about it in child and juvenile workers, but the bank's next question is how? I need an answer. I'm checking the ID verifications before the employment. We have a security personnel trained on child labor, so when you approach to our place in the car, we look if there is a child and we ask a question if there is anyone as a child in your car. And I'll tell you a story. Can you imagine in 2022, last year, I was in a gold mine in Turkiye. And gold mine in Turkiye, we are doing an assessment project. They were dealing with a child labor, yet they don't have a child labor. It's a funny story, isn't it? I'll explain you why. On Saturday, a technician guy came to the workplace with his pickup and said that I fixed this engine and I'm just going to give it back. And the secretary said, okay, you know this place, you know where to go. Take the ID card, give him a card, and the guy went there. But there was an additional person in the car, a 14-year-old son of the driver. It's Saturday, and he's bored, and his father decided to take him. They were in the workplace, and the machine is kind of heavy, and this is a 14-year-old guy, he can carry stuff. His father asked for help. Can you please help me to take this engine and put it on the ground? And he did. But suddenly, his hand is slapped, and engine fell down on his right foot, and he has a multi-fracture. Now that gold mine tried to convince the government and everyone that I am not working with a child labor. So this is a real story. So child labor still exists? Yes, it exists. Unfortunately, in the rural areas of every country, you can find a child labor. Then who is child? Do we know who is child labor? Anyone younger than 15 years of age is a child according to ILO, International Labour Organization. Okay? Juvenile worker is the worker who is between 15 to 18. We are talking about young workers. Do you have juvenile workers in your workplace? Yes, you do. but you don't know them. They are your interns, especially technical high school interns. They are all juvenile workers, and they have some restrictions. They cannot work 8 hours a day. They can only work maximum 7 hours and 5 minutes according to ILO. I don't know the local concept here. Maybe Ivan knows the local concept, but I don't know that. But it is, juvenile workers are different. So we need to have policies, procedures to work with human resources policies and also child and juvenile laborers in our workplaces. Okay? And working relationships. Banks are looking for every employee, including temporary ones, including indirect workforce, should have a contract. Signed contract in a language that your employees can understand. That is very important. Especially with immigrant workers, sometimes immigrant workers sign a contract that they don't understand. Like I was involved in a project in Pakistan. It was a huge water dam project. The immigrant workers were coming from China, but they signed a contract in Pakistani, Urdu language in Pakistan, and they have no idea what they are signing for. So these are very, very important forms. It's the same thing with Turkish workers before the war in Ukraine. They are working for a highway, subway project. They sign a contract in Ukrainian, but they have no idea what the contract is saying. So it says a written contract, understandable by the worker, and also there should be some volunteer cases in there. I will tell them in forced labor. So we need to be very careful, especially with our subcontractors and contractors. Because in today's world, one of the biggest problems with the business life is subcontractors. The subcontractor ocean is so deep. I am the main owner of the job, and I say that I'm going to build this hospital. Okay, in 2 years. I'm not doing any construction. I'm just doing the management. I'm hiring him as my main contractor, so he found all the workers, everything, and give me a code. It says, Dundar, I'm going to build this hospital for you, 800,000 euro. Okay, take it. Then I make another agreement with another person. He brings all the heating and cooling system. Then with an electrician. Then see, it's a lot of subcontractors, and they belong to different employers. They belong to different systems. So banks are asking us, look, have a system, manage these forces with working contracts. Child and juvenile workers, we always talk about it. Forced labor. It is a big issue in the world, especially when we will talk about solar supply chains and meat supply chains. It is going to be very tricky to talk about, but it is an issue in the world. Do you believe that? Do we have a forced labor in Turkey or in Montenegro? Anyone can say yes or no one? Good. We don't have forced labor in Turkey. We don't have forced labor in Montenegro yet. Forced labor is a crime. Do you know how we face with forced labor? Yasmin, we have work to do. You are staying overtime tonight. Thank you. That is a forced labor. Because I am asking involuntarily someone to stay overtime and finish this job. So they're saying forced labor can be a form in asking for overtime. It's because it has to be voluntarily. Yeah, you can ask in force major, like you have an immediate problem with your production, you have a problem with wind, sun, or snow, or hurricane, and there's something force major going on there. But we cannot ask our workforce all the time, okay? Because we have the limited time. That's what the local banks are auditing for. They will talk to our workers. They will ask these questions. They will see the contracts, and they're going to look at every article of the contract. If any word saying that overtime, the worker accepted to work overtime in advance. Yeah, he can sign it, but it's not legal. It doesn't mean anything into that system, including Turkish law, including Montenegrin law. It's just a signature because it is illegal. He can refuse or she can refuse to overtime. So forced labor can be a form of this. Forced labor can be a form of, you are working in Podgorica, I know that you have a family, I know that you have a kid, but now I'm moving to Europe, always. That is also a forced labor. So we have forms of forced labor. It has to be volunteer and accepted by the worker or the employee. And forced labor is also a very important issue in the solar supply chain. We'll talk about it. Non-discrimination and equal opportunity. Do we discriminate? Yes, we all do. It is a part of human nature. We discriminate. We discriminate our loved ones to our non-loved ones. We discriminate our ordinary people to our friends. We discriminate Galatasaray to Fenerbahçe. We discriminate Adana to Istanbul. We discriminate. The problem is how much we do tolerate it. Or when we discriminate something, is it also humiliation or equal opportunities? It's not about feelings, it's about their opportunities, equal opportunities. For example, you assess a workplace and you see that all the top management is men. They are men, just men. There is no female in the top management. Okay, let's say coincidence. And then you look at the salaries. He's doing the same job, she's doing the same job, but he's getting more money than her. So that is the problem. That is the biggest problem. We are working there, but we couldn't come to that level, including our countries. We couldn't come to a level to equal opportunity and equal pay for the female workforce yet. So these are very important points. Ethnicity, belief, and particular school. Like, for example, they're saying that we are looking for candidates graduated from university of this only. It's a discrimination. We are looking for thin, tall, presentable ladies. Discrimination. Okay? These are very important because your ads will be investigated if you're looking for a loan. Worker organizations are the unions. And union is an international right. Turkey and Montenegro both signed ILO Declaration 93, and they are part of this union. And having a union member is also a constitutional right, both in Turkey and Montenegro, in all countries. So being an anti-union is going to be tricky. That doesn't mean that everybody should be unionized. That is another problem, because you cannot force anyone to be a union member. But you can also cannot force anyone being not a union member. So as an employer, our role is standing objectively. You want to be a union, go for it, I don't care. You don't want to be a member, don't be a member. So there shouldn't be any seen or visible mechanism as an employer here. Worker organizations can be different. It can be just workers' committee. It doesn't have to be a union. But workers may say that I don't want to join a union, but me and 5 of us, we just get together and our workforce elected us as a representative. Instead of you listening to all of us, we will only come to you, knock your door. As a management, we're gonna convey our grievances like, can we change the cafeteria meal? Can we put some heating into production floor? Can we put some shades in the garden so people can smoke under the rain and stuff like that? That is what the communication are. Okay, wages, benefits, and conditions of work. Okay, this is the most tricky part. In today's world, do you know what the minimum salary is? Everybody, okay, good. Minimum salary and minimum wage is a wage which is defined and provided by a government. It is decided by parliament. Turkey's minimum wage is this. Montenegro's minimum wage is this. This is the minimum wage, and it is illegal. No one can be paid less than minimum wage unless they are part-time. If they're really part-time, it's a different story. Okay? We got this concept. But there are other wages. Have you heard living wage? Living wage is also known as, in the world, is a wage which provides a comfort of living. It's not only eating and sleeping, but also comfort of living as a human being. Because living wage and minimum wage are two different things, and it is very different in every country. It's different in Turkey, it's different in Montenegro, it's different in Austria, it's different in the United States of America. When the countries were and governments were, if living wages and minimum wages are similar, then we're talking about a really developed and distributed economy. Okay, that is the important part. So banks are looking for.
And maybe starvation.
Yes, starvation wage. Yes, starvation wage. We do. And even for that, the banks are not saying you should give the living wage, but they're saying that you should pay above the minimum wage. to be able to have a sustainable life. Then you are talking about well-being of your workers. Like most of the time, employers are always saying, look, I have great relations with my employees. I love them. I always say hi to them. Good for you. But what about their living conditions? Are they happy? Or are they not just waking up, coming to your workplace, work, and go to their home, eat something and sleep? Is this a life? Yes, it's a life, but there are better lives, and they are achievable. So distribution of well-being is the key important part. Worker accommodation, IFC, EBRD, and CDC, they both have dedicated guideline and checklists for worker accommodation. Like, for example, you are building a highway in the middle of nowhere because the minimum county or village to your place is like 50 kilometers or 60 kilometers. So your workers need to accommodate in a remote area, and you need to build a dormitory for them. So fire systems, evacuation systems, emergency management. Do they have nets for mosquitoes or bugs? Or do they have enough space so they can put their clothes? Or do they live with a suitcase? So there are some specific checklists just for this. Collective dismissals or retrenchments. This is the biggest concern for employers, especially when the project is coming to an end. Because when you start a project, sometimes some projects are conducted by 5,000 people, 5,000 workers. It's like a stadium. A lot of workers are coming, trucks are coming, but then 2 years later, the main construction is over. Now you're doing the detailed construction and technical works. Now you have to reduce your workforce to 700 from 5,000. EBRD, I have to say that you should announce it in advance. You should choose who is going. Instead of sending 4,300 people at the same time, you should put it into a one-year action plan. And what is your compensation plan for that? And especially when you bring workers and employees from abroad, how are you going to bring them back to their workplace, their home country? Is there a transportation plan for that? And who's doing what? So retrenchment and dismissal, these are very important parts for the projects. Non-employee workers, collective investment, yes, non-employee workers, I already talked about it. If you have a non-direct, indirect workforce, development banks have you accountable for them as well. You cannot just say that, hi, these are not my workers, so I'm not working with them. They have their own employees. The bank says, you are eligible and you are accountable for this. Supply chain. We will talk in detail when it comes to solar and wind, but supply chain is very important because it's like the non-direct workers. Supply chain, when you're buying some stuff in a frequent manner, like for example, every month you are buying concrete from somewhere, or every month you are buying photocopy papers or something like that in huge amounts and frequently buying it. The development banks are asking you, you should monitor them. You should introduce your supply chain policy, your human rights policy to your supplier. So suppliers should sign a code of conduct and commitment and say that, yes, I'm not employing any child worker. There is no forced labor in my workplace. At least you need to have a commitment letter. See, this is the league of extraordinary. So the last one is grievance mechanism, meaning you should have a mechanism in your workplace. The workers can able to raise their grievances, their complaints, without thinking that, okay, my boss is going to kick me out from this company if I raise this. So how is our business? We are doing a great job, we are doing a great job. No, we have a problem with our supervisor. The new manager that we appointed he is always swearing to us and always shouting us and humiliating us. We have a problem with him. There is a clear communication line. As an employer, as an owner of the business, you should be aware of what is going on your shop floor. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to play in the extraordinary league, we are talking about a super league in the football, you should have good uniform. You cannot go to the super league with a lacerated uniform. If you're a neighborhood team, you can do whatever you want because you don't have a budget. And you can just say that, oh, my shoes are lacerated, cut, no problem. But you are playing a big game, big league, you should have these kind of standards. That is the quality of the business. So, we have coffee and tea, and we have not much left to do, and we will just finish very quickly. Thank you very much for your patience. Okay. How's everybody? Comfort break was, I hope it was good, so you can find a chance to refresh yourself. Okay. I'll promise I will not take you to sleep in the second session, so I'm going to be brief, and so I'll also give a room for questions and comments and edits. That will be great. So this is where they left. We were talking about the investment banks, their requirements, their specific requirements when it comes to PR, performance requirements and performance standards, and we talk in detail about PR2, labor rights, working conditions, which is the most important part of the anti-standard. I must say that every 10 articles are important, but PR2 is specific to PS2 is globally important. Those are the problems that we always see in the multiple workplaces and multiple sectors. So we arrive investment for renewable and agribusiness. If you look at the general investment idea of electricity, you can see that there is a context, there is a strategic direction, and this is the critical action areas to deliver the energy transition. The first thing is the concept. What is the context with the energy in today's world is the first thing, climate emergency. It is very important because we are having a different climate now when we compare with 100 years. In a conference, it was a tourism conference, it was global, but it was online. So I found the chance to participate as a listener. The tourism industry is talking something very interesting. They're saying that in 10 years' time, we were talking about 2030, Egypt and Africa seashore lines will become like Mediterranean, like southern Turkey. Sorry, my mistake. Ignore what I said. The Turkish Mediterranean shoreline will be the next Egypt in terms of temperatures. So, imagine Adana, Mersin, Antalya, all the Asian region of Turkiye, it's going to become like Egypt. We're talking about that temperatures. The Black Sea will be the new Mediterranean. So therefore, the tourism industry should prepare themselves about these climate changes. Maybe they need to install more shades in their hotels and surroundings. Their water consumption, their electricity consumption, their cooling and heating consumptions will dramatically change. So climate emergency is the hot topic. Look at what happened to Libya. Did you watch it over the media? It's amazing. The power of nature, Mother Nature is amazing. And yet we are still building houses in the middle of the riverbeds. And we have this kind of tradition. I don't know why, but we are still doing that. And the second thing is energy crisis. It is a huge crisis, ladies and gentlemen. like energy crisis also bring another huge problem. It's called the air pollution. I'm frequently flying to Podgorica from Istanbul almost every month, and when the winter comes, have you ever landed to Podgorica airport during December and January? Interesting, isn't it? Because you're almost, above the clouds, nothing, it's clear sky. But when you start descending, and you finally approach the runway, you can able to see an artificial clouds of smoke and artificial clouds of pollution. Because it is winter time, and some people, not some, majority of the people in Podgorica prefer to burn coals or wood instead of using electricity, because they cannot cope up with the electricity prices. So that's what they're doing. So we need to consider these factors as well. And the third factor is, I can read it. Innovation. The third important subject is the concept is the innovation. Because we cannot continue without traditional methods. We need to use innovation in all areas about energy. I will tell more about the distribution dilemma. And strategic direction is accelerate the decarbonization of energy. What is decarbonization? You know that the fossil fuels are hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons are great for energy, but it is very bad for pollution and very bad for green effects, especially on the environment. So there is a direct movement. That means the economy is already direct itself for decarbonization. And yet Turkey has commitments. Turkey has commitments for the 2030-2050, the Paris Agreement. You know this kind of environmental agreements. This has a lot of side effects. It's not easy. It's not easy. Maybe the world is not ready. But even some countries make a change, it's not going to change the global way, because all Africa needs to change. And if China is changed, but US is not changed, or vice versa, it's not going to help. We all need to act together. Russia, developed countries, Europe, Turkiye, Middle East countries, Saudi Arabia, Aramco, everything is connected. Now we're talking about electric cars, but do we have the background to provide this? That is the most important one. And the second factor is deliver the resilient efficiency and inclusive energy systems, which is deliver the resilient, efficient, and inclusive energy systems. The energy consumption differs. It is seasonal. In summer, like August, you have the highest peak season. We're talking about 45 degrees. Almost every house who has an air conditioning system use it because it is hot. In winter, if you're using air conditioning again, you cannot cope up with the cold weather, so you have to use it. So energy is not stable. So our dilemma is, when there is a peak movements, am I ready? I don't know if you could remember, like 3 to 4 years ago, I assume, if I'm right. Yeah, 3 to 4 years ago. In Turkey, we had a huge electricity problem. Almost in every major cities, our industry paused. I was the İstemir, Turkey's biggest steel manufacturing facility. They were my clients at that time, and they were using double interconnect system. That means it's like a city. They had to stop their high furnace oven, and it can be catastrophic for them because the electricity is gone. It's gone because of these movements. There was a transmission problem with the frequency, and they lost electricity there. So we need to be ready. How we can be ready? First, scale up renewable energy sources. What does that mean? I have the traditional sources. I have the power generation plant. I have the water dam. Now I need to find and renewable energy, the solar and the wind, connected directly to the interconnect system. Therefore, the governments start initiations about, yeah, you want to do solar panel investment? Do it. I'll give you the permission. I'll give you the land. I'll give you wherever you like. Just invest in this. Because we are entering to an electrical world, ladies and gentlemen. In 100 years ago, we entered the fuel world. Now we are entering the electricity world. So we need to be ready. Upgrade and expand the networks and storage solutions like Montenegro. Montenegro is connected to all Balkan countries, and yet Montenegro is the only place for Serbia to be able to reach to the sea. So upgrading the power lines, upgrading the distribution boards, upgrading the power stations is utmost important for seasonal electricity. Promote zero carbon fuels, we already talked about it, electric cars, phase out unbeatable fossil fuels, promote secure and resilient energy assets, and enhance electricity or energy efficiency and productivity, maybe less taxes by governments. Like if you produce this with electricity, I'm not gonna get this tax from you, or I'm gonna reduce your taxes into that, or if you produce your electricity in your factory, I'm willing to buy it as a state. Maybe this kind of initiatives are included in that. And manage an inclusive energy transition. It is important because until the last 10 years, we had the biggest problem. What was the biggest problem? With electricity. Until the last 10 years, a decade, we had the biggest problem with electricity. Ladies and gentlemen, we can produce it, we could have produced it, but we couldn't store it. That was the biggest problem. Now, with the help of the new fuel and battery technology, we solve this problem. We can store. And even big energy giants in Turkey started electricity producing and electricity storage facilities in Turkey at the moment. So it is a market there, and the technology is there. And normally, generation, now we were only taking from water dams or other places, now we are taking it from renewable energies, wind turbines, and also from solar panels. And there are alternative methods. For example, in Netherlands, they created this wave technology to produce electricity, and they able to electrify the entire village, but just by the wave technology. Because waves are moving, so they created generators which are activated by wave movements, and they are able to create electricity. So this is important. This is innovation. We need innovative ideas to store and to distribute the electricity. One of the biggest problems is equality in the country, right? Because if you're in a developed area, you have everything. But if you're in a rural area in every country, you have limited options. So electricity distribution is an important role. When is the last time that you go to a bank? Our banker left, but we do everything by online. We do everything. If you lost your cell phone, you feel like somebody cut your arm. We are that kind of dedicated to this life. So electricity and people or countries or companies who are managing the energy and electricity is critically important in today's strategical world. So we need to think about investments in those movements as well. There is another important factor, ladies and gentlemen, the inequality of food distribution and food crisis. Do you believe that the world is in food crisis and it's not over yet? Look, there was a war between Russia and Ukraine. We all know that, but it's not a political meeting, we're just sharing the international political news. What happened? The people in Africa started to say something about it. And they said, what about our grains? What do you mean? Because all the grain is coming from Ukraine to that areas. So if there is something going on in a particular area of the world, it is becoming another problem in a different part of the world. We are that much connected, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot say, it's happening on the Southeast Asia, it doesn't matter. Or that ship just stuck in Suez Channel is not important. That ship was coming from China with all the goods inside, and it's stuck in the Suez Channel, and all the world channel has been blocked, and we had this supply chain crisis for years. So food is connected, and we have a food crisis. And the EBRD, is the sector strategy for 2024 and 2028, is efficiency closing the food gap to provide all people the equal food. That is very important. Even in Norway, that was this huge storage. They have all samples from all around the world, grains and all the seeds, and they put it there, and they are securing it like they are securing a military base, because that is that much important, very critical. Preserving natural resources and improving the social and environmental impacts. Montenegro, yes, it's a beautiful country for tourism, but it is also a beautiful nature for food and agriculture and agribusiness. And it's a great country for organic tourism, and it can be achievable in Montenegro. The first important factor is it's very well connected. Serbia is next door. Right-hand side is the Croatia. Northeast is Kosovo, and then the rest of the world, Slovenia, Slovakia, and Hungary. All these corridors can be used by Montenegro, and there are yet a lot of places that Montenegro not efficiently using it, I must say. Like, I arrived here in 2018, and one of the greatest things about Podgorica was no traffic when I compared with some. But now we are 2023, try to leave your workplace between 3:30 to 4. You're not going anywhere. Because we have a traffic problem in Podgorica, especially on roundabouts. And look at the roundabouts. Almost like traffic is going from Centralville to City Core, just because of one roundabout. And now maybe they need to install more traffic lights instead of 3 roundabouts because it's not affecting anymore. So what I'm trying to say here, connecting the dots, because all the people living in Biolopolye, from Rojaye, from cities like maybe Palau or other areas, they want to come to Podgorica to work. So Podgorica population is increasing because of this internal domestic immigration, because of the opportunities here. So this has to be also in mind, so we can reactivate the agribusiness there. Because families are losing their sons, their kids, because they don't want to work in the village anymore, they want to explore the world. Okay, it's great, but we need to find a sustainable way. That's the important part in Montenegro, because EBRD I see as a strategy on that. So they are prioritizing agribusiness as well. I'm going to tell you this interesting story, the supply chain map. It is so interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Look at my suit. I have a jacket. Yeah. Normally you would never see me like this. I like blue jean and a shirt, that's it. But today is an important day, so I just want to wear a good stuff on. So I have my suit. Imagine my yarn, okay, my textile. You are buying cotton from Turkmenistan, washing that cotton and process it in Turkmenistan and send it to India to make a yarn. Then, from India, you got this yarn and send it to Pakistan, and somebody in a factory paint them, dyeing, okay, in any color that you desire. Then, you are giving an order at China, a factory, is producing plastic buttons for your suit. But they're producing like 5 billion of them, okay? And then you are buying from there. And where was our textile? It was in Pakistan for dyeing. Then you are taking from there, send back to India. In India, some people just cut the clothes according to the model of my suit. Then you're gathering the plastic buttons, gathering the textile, sending them back to Turkiye. Some people in Konya just knitting them into knitting devices, and then mass production of these suits. And you package them and send it to the United States. This is cheaper than producing in one country. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the complexity of the supply chain? One fail, everything fails. So supply chain managers are like nuclear power plant managers. They're managing multiple things. When I say supply chain manager, my typical question is, what kind of drug are you using to calm yourself? Because they are either alcoholic or, I'm sorry if there's a supply chain manager here, they are either using a lot of alcohol to calm down, or they are using heavy drugs to calm themselves down. They are always stressful. Yet, this is just a simple textile production. What about iron? What about car production? What about airplane production? Can you imagine the supply chain complexity? So this supply chain is very important. I'll tell you a real example. Do you remember this phone? And do you remember there was a brand called Nokia? I am from 1976, I'm 47 years old, so I do remember it. If you're not remembering it, consider yourself like you're still young. Do you remember that? Good. I'm sorry if the ones who remember. Unfortunately, yes. Nokia was a very, very famous brand. It's still famous, but at that time it was the only phone that everybody wants to have a Nokia. And at that time there was another cell phone, which is known as Ericsson. Okay? Ericsson and Nokia was competing. But suddenly, Ericsson becomes Sony Ericsson, and Nokia boomed to all markets until the iPhone had arrived. You know why? 17 March of 2000, Turkiye, New Mexico. There is a huge Philips facility. Philips is a very well-known Dutch brand. Philips facility in Turkiye, and they were producing microchips and chips for cell phones. Both Nokia and Ericsson ordered some chips, big amount of chips from Turkiye factory. There was a fire, very minor fire, okay? And it's only last 10 minutes. And it was a Class A fire. Class A fire, what we call this fire from paper, wood, easy to extinguish, it's not a chemical fire. And they use fire extinguishers. I don't know if they have it here. No? Okay, they have sprinklers, you're saying. They have sprinklers. So they use fire extinguisher to extinguish the fire. So the chemical powder is everywhere. And Nokia and Ericsson immediately called what is going on. They said, no problem, nothing, it's only the last 10 minutes, and our total cost is only 50 million US dollars, not a big deal, you are all safe. And Ericsson says, oh God, good to hear. But Nokia says, no, reduce my chip production 30%. I'm gonna change my order to Eindhoven factory instead of Turkey factory. So Nokia made this movement. Ericsson didn't. But then, when they sent the chips, when both companies put the chips inside the phones, chips are not functioning properly. They are functional, but they are not functioning properly. Because the dust of fire extinguisher, the chemical powder, they shouldn't be touched to any digital material. It will eliminate them. The chips become unusable. Ericsson, with the last minute, got millions of phones in his hands, and they cannot sell it. And they cannot find any chip provider at that time. And Ericsson lost 100.5 billion US dollars globally. So Sony comes and bought the Ericsson. So there is the birth story of Sony Ericsson, ladies and gentlemen. One simple fire for 10 minutes, it may erase you from the entire supply chain. Because supply chains are complex, there are lots of issues. Imagine the ESGs, subcontractor level, supply chains, auditors. That's the reason that textile is auditing themselves. Remember the Ali Enterprise fire, Pakistan in 2012. 248 people lost their lives because the doors were locked for security reasons. That day was a seller payment day, and they were paying cash. So a large amount of money was in the factory. For security reasons, they locked all the doors. But they didn't think that there might be a fire. And because of that fire, 248 people lost their lives. And Walmart paid millions of dollars as a compensation. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a big brand, no one knows Dundar's factory. They will know, a factory in X country working for Levi Strauss or Nike or H&M, because you are a global brand. If you're a global brand, you need to be careful. So, the dilemma between supply chain when it comes to solar and agribusiness and electricity is two important things: polysilicon and cobalt. Without cobalt, without polysilicon, there is no solar, there is no battery. Cobalt is the important factor in the battery life, and it is only available, mostly available in Congo. And polysilicon, globally available, but it's also, China is dominating the world on that, right? 36% minimum. So they are really good in that investment. And also China transfer the know-how to a Turkish company, Kalyon Energy, 650 million euros in 2020. Right now in Turkiye, they have the full integrated facility, starting from polysilicon to cell. It is the only one in Turkey, so normally people just don't produce all of them. So, why it's important? This is the map of a solar panel. Solar panel starts with polysilicon. Polysilicon is an ore, like an ore, it's found in the nature. or it can be artificially produced by using high volumes of electricity, making normal silicon to polysilicon. We're talking about normal sand, okay? But we make it polysilicon. Then we take the polysilicon, heat it up to 1650 degrees, and create what's called ingot. Ingot is like a torpedo-style material, but it's pure material, so pure polysilicon torpedo, like this way. Then we got this ingot, put it into a high-speed cutters, and slice them as thin as your hair. It's less than millimeters, and we created the wafers. Wafers are also known as backsheets. Then we connect those backsheets together using potted glues and other chemical things, and we created the solar cell. The cell actually produces the energy when multiple cells get together, and we provided the solar panel module. Most of the producers saying that, oh, we are producing solar panels. No, you're not. You're buying the cell from another country, and you're buying a glass from another country, and you're buying an aluminum frame from another country, and you're just putting them together. You're not producing a solar panel. Solar panel production is a very expensive business. Huge technology business. Majority of the companies are acting like that. That is a big problem. In solar panel mode, you cannot find a child labor because it is a high-tech production. You should have a minimum technician level person to be able to work. Cell production, no child labor. It's impossible to find. It is impossible to find in wafer production. It is impossible to find in ingot production because these are high-tech level productions and your workforce need to be educated. But polysilicon, you can find forced labor and child labor. You need to be very careful. So therefore, you need to make a very good investigation. That is what is called supply chain risk mapping before you make a decision on purchase. Because a company in Turkey had to, I cannot say the name because of confidentiality agreement, had to recalculate all the impacts of the project. Because they were thinking to buy it from a specific company in a specific country, but then they find out that their name, actually we find out that their name are reflected in Shalom University report as forced labor and child labor. Then big development banks say that, oh, you need to prove me that there is no child labor and forced labor in your tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. This is very important. Then you have to change the country and change the company to a more expensive another version. So you need to be very careful when you're making these decisions. To be compliant with banks' requirements, establish a supply chain policy. Hire a consultant and establish a supply chain policy. Then, in line with your policy, establish a procurement code of conduct. It's more about like for services and goods, and make a commitment with your suppliers. Include civil labor and human rights in your contracts. Like when you're signing a contract with your supplier, just add the civil labor rights. Like I agree that I will not use any forced labor, child labor, or discrimination while producing this product and stuff like that. Make your supplier to sign this in your contract. Make a contract article for that. Make your supply chain. It is very important because I'm going to show you a map of supply chain a little later. You can see that it can be very complicated. Make your supply chain and conduct a risk assessment of the supply chain. Am I exposed to any risk? What is going on? What is the trend in that country? What is the trend for that specific sector? Define tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. Assess your supply chain and annual report. Voluntarily submit a report to public in your website and say that this is my annual sustainability report. These are the things that I'm doing. To give you an example, look at this. It is supply chain schematic of an aluminum factory. You have the aluminum plant in operations. Look at the downstream and look at the upstream. You have to have oxide mining. You have to have transport customers, aluminum smelting, and own power management. Where is my power is coming from? How is my power is produced? That is the map of the supply chain. Then we have to concentrate on the risks. What are the risks? What is expecting me? Why should I consider to work with banks? Interesting, right? I'm saying all this tricky stuff, all the hard stuff, and then you may probably ask, why do I need to work with banks? If you have money, you don't need to use it. If you want to use your money, if you want to risk your money. If you don't have the budget, if you don't have the money, or if you don't want to risk it, then consider to work with the money, especially if your project is higher than 5 million euros, unless it's not a microcredit. Higher volumes of loans, lower interest rates, and extended repayment options. Banks are not saying this openly, but this is what it is. Higher volumes of money, lower interest rates, and extended repayment options. Sectoral experience transfer. They have the experts for every sector, every subject. So, and they are world-class people. So if you need them, they can transfer that knowledge into your organization very easily. And don't forget, at the end of the day, you are their customer, okay? Don't forget that. Be more attractive to other financial institutions. That means you had an IFC loan before and you completed it. You have an EBRD loan and you completed it. You are automatically saying that I am coming from the Super League, okay? I have these standards, if you have this. And reputation and brand building. This is very important for you if you want to do that. Like, for example, there is this company in Turkey called Renaissance. It's a huge company, huge holding, and they are doing a lot of stuff in terms of construction. Now, IFC owns 25% of Renaissance. It's all by Worker, private group, IFC. It's a public information in the meantime. Why do I need to work with a consultant? Pre-assess the requirements. Understand if this suite is going to fit me or not. If not, what kind of tailor-made things I should do. A consultant can tell you by assessing your company and your practices. Tailor-made policies, procedures, and management systems, and expertise transfer and capacity building, especially training for your critical personnel, your top management, your whole personnel. Deep sectoral knowledge a consultant can provide to you. And what should do we know next? What I'm gonna do? Okay, Dundar, great. It's great knowing you with this, but what I'm doing next? Contact the bank directly. You can go to their website. They have dedicated country websites like EBRD Montenegro, ISC Montenegro. There's a contact information, there's a telephone number, take an appointment, talk about your project, learn the requirements, learn the expectation. Maybe you can even learn the new country strategy about their things. Do not hesitate to talk with. Browse the bank's financial products and instruments. Because maybe you're just looking for a loan, maybe a guarantee letter is going to help you. Let the bank guide you because they have a lot of instruments, financial instruments, and validity. Hire an expert consultant, access the PS and PS requirements, self-evaluation. Just have a look at what is this PS talking about, what is this PR is talking about, what is expecting me, what should I do to prepare myself. List the possible actions and possible closing dates. Okay, this is going to be a problematic for me, but I need to solve this. How much time do I need to solve this? I can solve this less than a year. Okay, less than a year, next year. I can solve this next week. I can solve this next month. I can solve this in 3 months. You know, list your priorities and actions. Capacity building for management systems, policies, procedures, forms, checklists, training of personnel, especially training of top management is key role here. Because this is where, as a company owner or as a decision maker, you can have biggest resistance in the middle management. Because they don't want to change the game. They don't want to change the rules of the game. Because they were coming from the past era and they're used to play the game with that rules. Now you're changing the game with other rules and they don't like it. It's okay to resist, but it is okay to change as well. And commitment of top management. Every worker, every employee should understand that, look, our top management is committed to this. They have zero tolerance for this. If something happens, they're gonna just, beat. So they will be there. So ladies and gentlemen, these are easy steps that you can take. Now you know the world of the investment banks. Agribusiness is important, solar panel is important, renewables are important, wind and wind turbines are important, health projects are utmost important. Community health is very, very important issue. Education is very important. Building education systems, private entrepreneurs, public-private partnerships in education, in healthcare is utmost important. Well, I thank you very much for your patience. I know that it's a torture to sit down in a hotel room and listen to your non-different language other than your mother tongue. It's a torture. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Last but not least, I would like to extend my gratitude to TurkCham for providing me this opportunity to share this information with everyone and the support of His Excellency, Turkish Embassy in Montenegro. And if you have any immediate questions or want to add something, please do not hesitate. I'm all ears. Okay, thank you very much.